What is going on, Nav Nation, and welcome back to another video. Today we're discussing something a little bit different than what you may be accustomed to. Now, we all know about those sets that are or were at one time very popular during their time and may now have even garnered a legendary status within the Pokemon TCG canon. But what about those sets that didn't quite garner the same level of notoriety and may have even been frowned upon during their time? Today we're going to take a look at historically unpopular Pokemon card sets and see how they have performed over the long term and answer the question, is one man's trash really another man's treasure? But before we get started, guys, just a quick announcement here. We are on the hashtag road to 10,000 subscribers, and we are only about 500 subscribers short of hitting that milestone. So be sure that you show your support for the channel and hit that subscribe button. Join the Nav Nation. As I said before, when we do hit that milestone, I have several products to give away to several members of the Nav Nation. Those include things like a Shining Fates Elite Trainer Box. There's also a Battle Styles booster box, and we also have Evolutions booster packs. Those are just a few of the products that we'll be giving away. We will have many more during that time. So again, be sure that you hit that subscribe button and join this awesome community. And on top of that, if you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, make sure you hit that like button as well, and I appreciate it ahead of time. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take this trip back in time to look at historically unpopular Pokemon card sets. And guys, I'm not necessarily recommending that you go out and purchase any of these sets or products that we discuss here today. This is more or less to look at how the preferences or the subjectivity of these quote-unquote unpopular sets during their time may have changed over the years from a collector's standpoint to what we're seeing now. So let's go ahead and start off here. We're going to take it back to 2016 to start with arguably the most unpopular set that I can think of in recent memory, and that is Steam Siege. So Steam Siege was released right before XY Evolutions, which was the commemorative set for the Pokemon 20th anniversary. Now, arguably, Steam Siege, one of the big reasons why people despise this set, maybe despise is a very harsh word, but look down upon this set, is there really aren't a whole lot of chase cards that were released during Steam Siege or in Steam Siege. And the other thing is that the cards itself really aren't that unique. There's a lot of reprints in this set and nothing that was really enticing or that excited collectors or even at that time investors in holding on to Steam Siege or really getting excited about it in general. Now, for the longest time, Steam Siege booster boxes were sitting at around $70, $75 a booster box, really all the way up until summer of last year. These booster boxes were well below even wholesale price to what you could get from a distributor. And it was just because people were not picking them up. It was one of the few booster boxes that was available on the PokemonCenter.com. While everything else was sold out, you could still find Steam Siege booster boxes available at Pokemon Center. But now that is starting to change. Now on the open market, Steam Siege booster boxes are going for well over $250. And many people have asked, well, why is this happening? Is this just an inflated product based upon the overall Pokemon hype? But I really think that what it boils down to is, although the set as a whole does not have, it's not the most exciting thing, it's not the most exciting set of cards, there are some really nice cards in there, and they also feature break cards that were unique during the XY era. Arguably the most valuable card in that set is the Gardevoir EX, and again, for the longest time, that card really wasn't worth a whole lot, and now we're starting to see that push in a PSA 10 condition over $200, sometimes even over $250. And in fact, right now, many of the offers out on the open market are going for over $300 for that particular card. Now, for the booster box is sitting at around $250. I still think that this is actually a pretty decent pickup for somebody who especially would like to get into a booster box that isn't relatively modern or ultra modern. This set did come out in 2016, and many of the other XY sets that were released during that time are well above the price point of Steam Siege. So for many out there that may want to relive some of the sets that were released during that era, I think Steam Siege could be a good opportunity to jump in at a much lower price point. And when you're looking at the value of the cards, we're starting to look at an expected value on the cards that are in that set starting to exceed the actual value of the booster box, which, you know, is really a value investing approach for most people. So Steam Siege starting to change now. I think there's going to be a little more appreciation for that set, and if nothing else, it is somewhat of a meme set within the Pokemon community of, you know, a lot of people call it the worst set of all time, and that in and of itself carries a certain connotation to it that many people, you know, may value. They may want to have as part of their collection 10 years from now because it is a funny piece that is from Pokemon card history. You know, very similar to what we saw way back in the day with things like miscuts, misprints, things like that. Collectors really had no value for those type of products, and now there is a huge premium on those type of products within the community. And we could see something very similar here with that connotation that's surrounded around Steam Siege. We could see a potential value investment with this particular set. Now, going even further back, we're going to take it all the way back to around 2011. Now, the sets, there was really 3 of them that were released during this time that many collectors really had no inkling to try to purchase, that they didn't really want to have in their collection. And that was really the 3 first sets released for Black and White era. And that was Base Set, Emerging Powers, and Noble Victories. Now, with these, again, there's not a huge amount of big chase cards that are in these first 3 sets from Black and White era. The other thing that we have to take into consideration is this was the quote-unquote slump of Pokemon. It's really downturn in popularity, not a whole lot of people collecting Pokemon cards. And so this may lend or may have lent to its overall, you know, unpopular aspect in that just there wasn't a whole lot of people in the hobby during that time. Now, on the other hand, there are a lot of people who are going back to Black and White era. You know, I've talked about it myself. We've done a Black and White base set box opening on the channel. There's a lot of cards that were in there, specifically the very first full art cards, Zekrom and Reshiram, released in Black and White base set. Many people are going back and wanting to relive some of those eras that they might have missed out on when they were taking a hiatus from Pokemon. And these 3 sets from Black and White are definitely the most affordable. When you start getting into the Plasma series, those can become very expensive, while Black and White base set, Emerging Powers, Noble Victories, still relatively affordable, you know, for the average collector or investor out there. And again, we're starting to take more of an appreciation for the cards that were released during that set and starting to understand some of those aspects like Black and White base set, where these were the first full art cards released in that set. So again, unpopular during its time, but now that things have played out over, you know, several years now, going on almost 10 years for Black and White base set, it's starting to change. The mindset and the zeitgeist of these sets are starting to change, and more people are starting to appreciate them. So now we are moving back into the Wizards of the Coast era, and right off the bat, many of you may be saying to yourselves, how could any Wizards of the Coast product or set actually be unpopular? These are so nostalgic, these are so deeply embedded within the consciousness of the Pokemon community. How could they ever be unpopular? And the one that we're going to discuss right here is probably going to blow you away, but that is the e-reader card, specifically from Expedition, Aquapolis, and Skyridge. Now, around this time, this was right around the time that Pokemon and Wizards of the Coast were starting to split. They knew that they were going to split. Wizards of the Coast was no longer going to be contracted to produce Pokemon cards, and Pokemon knew that they were going to be producing them on their own. And when the e-reader cards came out, they came out specifically so that you could use them within the Game Boy Advance. That's why it has the barcode look on the left-hand side of the card, so that you could swipe it in the Game Boy Advance and be able to utilize those cards within the games itself. Well, Well, spoiler alert, they didn't work worth a crap. They really didn't work at all with the Game Boy Advance. It was very difficult to do, and people just didn't really care for that aspect of it, and at that time didn't really care for the design on these particular cards. Now, we had cards during that time like crystal cards and some of the cards that we're really familiar with from this era that we really cherish now, but at that time, Pokemon and Wizards of the Coast, I think because of the big battle that they were going through, they weren't investing as much in the artistic or the aesthetic value of the cards, and were really more appealing towards the games and being able to cross over the cards to the games, and it really didn't transition well to the collectors of the TCG. But now, guys, I really don't have to tell you where these sets have gone. They're some of the most rare sets that you can find, some of the most rare sealed product and booster boxes that you can find. Such limited quantities out there, and a lot of that, again, is due to the tribulations going on between Wizards of the Coast and Pokemon, and the prices on the cards, especially those crystal cards, have just absolutely skyrocketed. And I really don't need to go into a whole lot more detail on these sets to allow you to understand how much it has changed over the years from its initial release and how how collectors felt about this set until now. And finally, to wrap up this trip down memory lane through the canon of Pokemon TCG and unpopular Pokemon card sets released during their time, we've got Legendary Collection and Base Set 2. These were the first sets within the long run of Pokemon reprints to ever have occurred. And if you guys were there back in the day, I know that for myself, Base Set 2 and Legendary Collection were pretty much just looked over sets. Many people didn't collect these. They didn't add these cards to their collection because they didn't like the thought of reprinted cards. These weren't new. These weren't exciting. They were just the same card with either the Base Set 2 logo or the Legendary Collection logo. Now, you can make the argument that the Legendary Collection also featured the firework pattern on the cards. This was the first time that we ever saw reverse holofoil cards, and that excited a lot of people at that time, but not so much that they weren't really looking on to the next set. And that's really what happened here with both Base Set 2 and Legendary Collection. It was kind of a passover. It was kind of the flyover state of Pokemon card sets, and many people were just looking towards the next one. But now, guys, that has really changed, especially with Base Set 2. That has been one of the sets that has surprised me the most, that has gained in popularity, especially over recent years. And I think it's also because of the affordability of it, of being able to have those cards at a more affordable price versus the original base set. I think that's one reason why you see more people gravitating towards that. And then Legendary Collection, again, it has that aspect of having the first reverse holofoil patterns, which I think appeals to a lot of collectors out there, being able to buy cards that are reprints again of the original sets, but also they have a unique characteristic of being the first reverse holofoil. So again, guys, I hope you kind of enjoyed this little trip through Pokemon history and looking at sets that were at one time unpopular. It's really hard to believe now that a lot of these sets were unpopular during their time, and that's really the core of the discussion here today, is that something that we have to talk about is that when it comes to these sets, there is a change in taste among new generations of collectors. So for us that grew up in Generation 1, Base Set 2 and Legendary Collection, at that time, we looked over it. It didn't appeal much to us. Now we look back on it with a lot of reverence. When we go forward and we start getting into the e-reader sets or Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or even Black and White era, those were another generation's era of sets. And even if they weren't popular among them at the time, the tastes can change, the nostalgia can take effect, and people can look back on these sets, as I said, with a lot more reverence than they had in its initial release. And that's really the last thing that I want to leave you guys with here today, is no matter how despised a product was during its release, it will always hold some kind of sentimental value to some collector out there in the world. If Steam Siege was the first set that reintroduced you back into Pokemon, no matter how arguably horrible that particular set may be, it will always hold a value in your heart because it was the set, it was the pivotal set that reintroduced you back into Pokemon. If Heart Gold, Soul Silver, if you never had the chance to collect Wizards of the Coast and Heart Gold, Soul Silver was the first set for you, then it will always hold a deeply embedded feeling within your collecting sphere. And even for us that grew up in Generation 1, if we did start out with base set, Jungle Fossil, well, guess what? Base Set 2 and Legendary Collection, they still have a place within our collections. We still look back on them with reverence for what they were, what they represented, and nowadays for the price points that they also represent, that we can get the nostalgia of those original sets without quite the same price level. So again, guys, no matter what, collect what you enjoy and understand that Pokemon as a whole, there's something in every single set for every collector out there, no matter what. So I will leave you with that today, Nav Nation. I hope you have enjoyed this video on quote-unquote unpopular Pokemon card sets and have really understood that it's not always how that set releases that necessarily indicates how it will perform or how popular it may be over the long term. Other than that, guys, I will see you all next time. My name is PokéNav. I'm here to help you navigate the world of Pokemon, one video at a time, and I will see you all in the next video.